My name is Sarah. I live with my husband, John, and our son, Michael. John and I have been married for 10 years. We are happy, or at least we were. We have a nice life, a house and a garden. John works hard. He is a good father and husband. 6 months ago, we hired Alex. Alex works for us. He helps clean the house and takes care of the garden. He also helps with Michael. He is nice and quiet. He always smiles. At first, I did not think much about him. He was just there to help us. But one evening, I came home late from work. John was not home. He was still working. Michael was asleep. Alex was sitting in the kitchen reading a book. I sat with him. We talked. He told me about his life. He is from another city, came here for work, and has no family here. He lives alone. We talked for a long time that night. After that, things started to change. One night, John had to go on a business trip. He was away for 3 days. It was just me, Michael, and Alex. On the first night, we had dinner together. After Michael went to bed, I sat with Alex again. We talked like before. We laughed. He made me feel good. I liked talking to him. Then something happened. I kissed him. It was just a small kiss, but it felt big. I pulled away. I told him it was a mistake. He didn't say anything. He just looked at me. That night I couldn't sleep. I felt so bad. I kept thinking about John. What had I done? I loved John. I still do. But something was different now. I had kissed Alex, and I couldn't take it back. I told myself it would never happen again. I promised myself it was just one mistake. But a few days later, it happened again. John was still away. I was alone with Alex. This time, we kissed for a long time. It wasn't just a small kiss. It was real, and I didn't stop it. Now, I didn't know what to do. I was scared. I had a secret, and it was big. I didn't want to tell John. He would be so angry. He would never forgive me. But I didn't know how to stop what was happening with Alex. Every time I saw him, I felt something strong. It was like a fire inside me. I couldn't control it. Days passed and everything seemed normal. John didn't know anything. He came home from his trip, and life went on as usual. I cooked dinner, we watched TV, we played with Michael, but inside, I felt different. I was keeping a secret, and it was heavy. I couldn't tell anyone. Alex still worked for us. He was good with Michael. He was always polite to John. When we were all together, everything looked normal. But when John wasn't around, things were different. Alex and I would look at each other. We didn't talk about what had happened, but we didn't need to. We both knew. I felt guilty all the time. When I kissed John, I thought about Alex. When I was with Michael, I thought about the secret. It was always there in my mind, and it was getting bigger every day. I couldn't sleep at night. I stayed awake, thinking about my mistake. I thought about telling John. I wanted to tell him, but I was scared. What would he say? What would he do? I didn't want to lose him. I didn't want to hurt him. But I had already hurt him, even if he didn't know. One night, I was lying in bed next to John. He was sleeping. I looked at him and felt so sad. He didn't know what I had done. He trusted me. He loved me, and I had broken that trust. I wanted to cry, but I didn't. I just lay there, thinking about my mistake. A few weeks later, something changed. I found out that John was also hiding something from me. He had been seeing someone else. I didn't know who she was, but I knew he was meeting her in secret. I saw messages on his phone. They were from a woman. At first, I was angry. How could he do this to me? I was his wife. But then I realized I had done the same thing. I was no better than him. We were both living a lie. Now everything was even more complicated. We were both keeping secrets. I didn't know what to do. Should I tell him about Alex? Should I ask him about the woman? Or should we both keep quiet and pretend everything was fine? One night, I made a decision. I couldn't live like this anymore. I couldn't keep the secret. It was too heavy. I had to tell John the truth, even if it hurt him, even if it ended our marriage. I couldn't lie anymore. I sat down with him after dinner. Michael was asleep. Alex had gone home for the night. I looked at John and took a deep breath. "John, I need to tell you something," I said. My voice was shaking. He looked at me, confused. "What is it?" he asked. I've been seeing someone," I said. I couldn't look him in the eye. There was silence. Then he spoke. "Who?" I told him everything. I told him about Alex, about the kiss, about the nights when he was away. I told him I was sorry. I told him I loved him. I cried and waited for him to say something. John didn't say anything at first. He just sat there looking at me. I didn't know what he was thinking. I was afraid he would leave. I was afraid he would yell. But he didn't. Finally, he spoke. "I've been seeing someone too," he said. Now, it was my turn to be silent. I didn't know what to say. "It started a few months ago," he said. "I didn't mean for it to happen, but it did. I'm sorry." We both sat there, not knowing what to do. We had both made mistakes. We had both hurt each other. But now everything was out in the open. There were no more secrets. We decided to talk, really talk. We talked about our marriage, about our mistakes, and about what we wanted. It wasn't easy, but we both agreed that we still loved each other. We didn't want to end our marriage. We wanted to try and fix it. The next day, we made some changes. We let Alex go. It wasn't easy, but it was the right thing to do. We also decided to go to marriage counseling. We knew it would take time, but we wanted to make things right. Months passed, and things slowly got better. John and I worked on our marriage. We spent more time together, talked more, and were honest with each other. It wasn't perfect, but it was better. After Alex left, it felt strange at home. The house felt quiet, almost too quiet. Michael missed him. He asked where Alex had gone, and I told him Alex had found another job. It wasn't a complete lie, but it wasn't the whole truth either. That was the hardest part of all this, trying to keep the truth from my son. John and I went to counseling once a week. At first, it was hard. We had to talk about our mistakes, our feelings, and why we both did what we did. The counselor asked us questions that made me think about things I didn't want to think about. "Why did you kiss Alex?" the counselor asked me. I didn't know how to answer. I loved John, but I still kissed Alex. Why did I do it? I told the counselor that I felt alone. John was always working. He was always busy. I felt like we were living separate lives. Alex made me feel seen. He made me feel special. John looked hurt when I said that, but it was the truth. We both needed to hear the truth. Trust is a hard thing to rebuild. After I told John about Alex, he didn't trust me the same way. He didn't say it out loud, but I could feel it. If I came home late, he would ask where I had been. If I was on my phone, he would look at me differently. I couldn't blame him. I didn't trust him completely either, not after learning about the other woman. The counselor told us that trust takes time. She told us we had to be patient. I wanted things to go back to normal, but I knew it would take time. Every day I worked hard to show John that I was sorry, that I loved him, and that I wanted to make things right. John did the same. He started coming home earlier from work. We had dinner together as a family more often. We spent weekends doing things together, like going to the park with Michael or watching movies at home. It wasn't easy, but we were trying. One day I asked John about the woman he had been seeing. I hadn't asked before because I was afraid of what he might say, but now I needed to know. "Who was she?" I asked him one night after Michael went to bed. John looked uncomfortable. He didn't want to talk about it, but I needed to hear the truth. "Her name is Lisa," he said. "She works at my office." I felt a pain in my chest when he said her name. I didn't want to know more, but I had to ask. "Do you still see her?" "No," John said quickly. "It ended before you told me about Alex." That made me feel a little better, but it still hurt. John had been seeing someone else while I was at home taking care of Michael, thinking everything was fine. It wasn't fair, but then again, I had done the same thing. We sat in silence for a while. Then John spoke again. "I'm sorry, Sarah. I made a mistake. I love you. I don't want to lose you." "I love you too," I said, and I meant it. We both had made mistakes, but we both wanted to fix things. Months passed, and things slowly improved. John and I started to trust each other again. We talked more, spent more time together, and made sure we didn't hide anything. We also made new rules for our relationship. If something was bothering us, we had to talk about it right away. No more secrets, no more hiding. It was hard at first, but it made things better. Michael was happier too. He didn't ask about Alex anymore. He was just happy to have both of his parents spending time with him. We played games, went to the zoo, and had fun together as a family. It felt good to be together again. But there were still hard days. Some days I would think about Alex and feel guilty. Some days I would wonder if John thought about Lisa. But we didn't let those thoughts stay for long. We pushed them away and focused on the future. One year after everything happened, John and I took a trip together. Just the two of us. Michael stayed with my sister, and John and I went to a small beach town for a weekend. It was the first time we had been alone together in a long time. The trip was good for us. We walked on the beach, had dinner at nice restaurants, and talked about our future. We both agreed that we wanted to stay together. We wanted to make our marriage work. On the last night of the trip, John surprised me with something. He pulled out a small box from his pocket. Inside was a new wedding ring. "I want us to start fresh," he said. "A new ring for a new start." Tears filled my eyes. I didn't expect this. I thought about everything we had been through, all the mistakes, all the pain. But now we had a chance to start over. "I love you, John," I said. "I love you too, Sarah," he replied. We put the past behind us and focused on the future. It wasn't easy, but it was worth it. Now John and I are closer than ever. We learned from our mistakes, and we became stronger because of them. Our marriage isn't perfect, but it's real. We trust each other, we talk to each other, and we never keep secrets anymore. Michael is growing up fast. He's happy, and he loves spending time with us. He doesn't remember much about Alex, and I'm glad. I want him to grow up in a home full of love and honesty. Sometimes I think about the past, about the mistakes we both made, but I don't let those thoughts stay for long. We have a new life now, a better life, and I'm grateful for that. John and I still go to counseling sometimes, just to keep things strong. We've learned that marriage is something you have to work on every day. It's not always easy, but it's always worth it. Looking back, I realize how close we came to losing everything. Our marriage could have ended because of the secrets we kept. But instead, we found a way to fix it. We found a way to move forward. I'm not proud of what I did with Alex, and I know John isn't proud of what he did with Lisa. But we learned from our mistakes, and we became stronger because of them. Life is full of challenges, and marriage is one of the biggest challenges of all. But if you love someone, if you really love them, you can get through anything. John and I are proof of that. Now, I feel happy and at peace. Our home is full of love and laughter, and that's all I ever wanted. We're not perfect, but we're real, and that's what matters. If you enjoyed the story, please like, subscribe, and share.